Hello again, everyone. I'm Charles Gross.
And I'm Leslie Hoban Blake. Welcome to Two on the Aisle. Our guest this morning is a familiar face, not just in the Gross family, but on our show as well. It is Miriam Gross, Charlie's youngest daughter, and a recent Rutgers graduate, as well as a playwright. So good morning. I am very jealous. You got to see the one play I really, really wanted to see. So I'm going to disappear myself and let you guys talk about it. And then I'm going to come back and ask a couple of questions because I've seen a lot of versions of this, okay? See you in a while.
I would like to start out with a heartfelt thank you to Scott Lehrer and Alex Newman, who are the sound designers of this production. You know, I've had a lot of problems with the sound in shows over this past season. It has been embarrassingly poor, unprofessional, and well below what should be the Broadway standard. However, I sat through Into the Woods. I heard every one of Stephen Sondheim's amazing lyrics, and even a few words that were much clearer to me than they have been in prior productions or even on recordings of the show.
I don't go to nearly as many shows as you do, and even I have noticed the sound production has gone way downhill recently.
So this is Into the Woods. This was the second collaboration between playwright-director James Lapine and composer-lyricist Stephen Sondheim, and it is their take on fairy tales. And I have to say, the first act of this show is about as good as it gets. And we saw three understudies that night. We saw Jason Forbach as the baker, Delphi Borek as Little Red Riding Hood, and Alex Joseph Grayson as Jack. And incredible, absolutely incredible. This is their take of the stories of Jack and the Beanstalk, Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, and Rapunzel. And they add an original story, the baker and his wife. And the baker and his wife are trying to undo a curse on their house. They have to get these objects for a witch who lives next door. The witch, as we find out, is trying to reclaim her beauty. The stories are beautifully integrated with each other. It is one of Sondheim's most beautiful scores. And here, even the cow, Jack's cow, Milky White, is done amazing. There's always been shtick with the cow, but the director, Lear DeBessonnet, has put a firm and excellent mark on the show, giving every bit of fun, of the musical nuances, of the comedy nuances. She comes up with some new shtick for Kennedy Kanagawa, who manipulates the cow, Milky White, to do, and it just works beautifully.
I agree with you. The puppetry they used was really incredible. They did a very good job with that. They gave Milky White in particular a lot of character.
Like a giant slinky that the puppet was.
A little bit. It was very well done. In particular, I was really excited to see Philippa Sue, who originated the role of Eliza in Hamilton. She was excellent as Cinderella. I really liked the baker and his wife. I thought both of them were really good. I would not have known any of them were understudies. Sarah Bareilles, who I know from her 2006 hit song, I'm Not Gonna Write You a Love Song. I remember that song from when I was growing up. I didn't realize that was her, but she was really excellent as the baker's wife. I thought the whole cast was quite good. I was a little less impressed with Jack than with the rest of the cast. I felt Little Red was played very straight. She was fun, but I felt like she didn't really add a lot to the role that I hadn't seen before.
I enjoyed her portrayal. She played it straight, but she played it well.
I think she played it straight, but she did a good job at it.
Right. Perhaps a tad less cynical than some Red Riding Hoods I've seen, but also I think very comic. And again, these she and Jack were played by their very talented understudies, and you had Patina Miller as the witch. And the first act, as good as it gets. The second act. I have always had a problem with the second act ever since I first saw the play. In this act, the giant's wife comes for revenge. In the first act, Jack kills the giant. In the second act, she comes and she attacks the village, and pretty much every character loses something. The prince and Cinderella lose their castle. Cinderella's prince ends up cheating on Cinderella with, of all people, the baker's wife. Jack's mother is killed. A lot of people are killed, and they are very badly beaten. Happily ever after just doesn't seem like it's going to happen. And you probably say, well, that's real life. And I said, yeah, but you know what? If we want real life, we're not going to come to fairy tales or very often to the musical theater.
This is a really solid production. It's just not as good as other productions I've seen. I think the set design is very nicely done. I think the costuming is, for the most part, very beautiful. I really liked Philippa Sue's portrayal of Cinderella. I think she did a really excellent job. One of the weaker points I felt was the princes. I felt the acting was not as strong with the princes. I've seen the princes done so well, and I felt this was just a little bit lackluster. I also thought the princes' costuming was just a little odd. It didn't really seem to fit so well. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't as good as Cinderella's maid costume. Cinderella's maid costume I liked a lot. I felt it really fit. The baker's wife's costume and the baker's costumes I felt really fit.
One interesting thing in the end was that in the second act, both princes have discovered Sleeping Beauty and Snow White. And at the end of the play, they make a brief cameo. Here they did not, but instead we see one of the princes coming out and pushing a stroller with the twins that he had with Rapunzel. It's inconsistent with what we've seen with the character, but it's an interesting touch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And your conclusions, 1 to 5 playbills?
I would give this 4 playbills. I think it was a really strong production. I just think it didn't wow me. It was a good, solid, played straight production of Into the Woods.
The first act did wow me, and I would give the first act 5 playbills. The second act less so, which I would give 3 playbills. So if you put them together, you end up with 4 playbills. And now I think it's time.
It is. I have questions. First of all, please, you kept mentioning the costumes and the set design. So who did them?
Andrea Hood did the costumes.
And the set design?
David Rockwell. I have to mention James Ortiz designed the puppets.
The puppetry was really stand out.
Was it a wise choice to move it pretty much as it was on the stage at Encores to Broadway?
It looks like a Broadway stage production.
I have to agree with Charlie about the second act. Stephen Sondheim loved puzzles. I think this was one of his big puzzles. I think the second act of this play was a puzzle that he chose to solve in his own way.
I don't find the second half terribly hard to follow. I can definitely understand why it would be, but I've never had that problem with it.
So thank you again, Miriam. Much appreciated.
My pleasure.
And best of luck in the outside world. Right now.
Thank you.
And that is our show for this afternoon. And Leslie and I will see you, us 2 + 1,
on the aisle.